All right, good afternoon to everyone. It's very nice to see the three of you here. Um, I don't want to go past 2 o'clock because I don't want to make this session boring. I just want to be brief, straight to the point as to what you need to understand as to completing various parts of your SBA, creating different things in the spreadsheet. If you have any questions in time, feel free to ask me whatever questions, whatever problem that you have. Um, if you're not following, just let me know also. So I'll basically be going through the chapter on the the chapters in the textbook. So we basically covered all of this already. What is a spreadsheet? What is a formula? So I'm basically going to focus more on the practical parts. Um, this is basically theory, was cell reference, the types of data, formatting, formulas, autofill, cell ranges, title locking. Well, I showed you guys title locking already. We covered all of this already. So the functions, the average function is a simple one, so that shouldn't be too complicated. Count A, count if, date max. I think we covered all of those already. I think we didn't do rank, and VLOOKUP. That's what we need to focus on. Let's see. All right, let me start with rank. All right, so rank is a simple function that is used when you want to get the ranking of something, basically. So say for instance, you have grades. Somebody got 70, somebody got 45, they got 60, 80. Say different persons got those grades. So for instance, Alia got that, Amrisa got that, Kasi got that, Jitendra got that. You weren't given any grade in any particular order, so don't feel any way. Now, you want the rank, so equal rank dot eq, that's the name of the function. It used to be equal dot rank, but that's the older version. The newer version is currently equal rank dot eq. It's right in the textbook, right here, rank dot eq. That's the newer version. Now this function has 1, 2, 3 arguments for the syntax. So open brackets. So the number that you want to rank, so this is a single number. So in this case here, because I'm putting it in this row number 2, I'm going to select cell B2. So basically, what single number you want to rank. In this case, I'm selecting that one single cell. Now, so that's the first argument. What do you want to rank, basically? What number do you want to rank? In this case, I'm ranking whatever is inside of B2. Now, your second argument is your reference, or basically your range. You have to compare it to something. This 70 has to be compared to other grades in order for it to be ranked. So what is the range of the grades? It's basically going to be, I can highlight it like this here, B2 to B5. So that's going to give me my range there. and comma, and the third argument is going to be I want the ranking to be in a descending order or an ascending order. So you would know however you want to rank it, whether descending or ascending. So I'm just going to choose 0 for descending for now. And we have 2 there. Now, what I should have done first is just highlight this range and give it a name. So I'm just going to name it grade, because if we autofill, it's not going to work correctly. Notice the range shifted downwards because of relative addressing. So I'm going to change this here. That's why it's important to use name ranges. So I'm going to change my range to what I just named there, so grade. So now when I autofill, it's going to keep that range. So notice it's in a descending order, but if you notice, it's out of order still, because 1 is at the bottom here, 2, 4, 3. It's not in a correct order or in an ascending or descending order. And the reason for that is because the grades, what you're ranking, and this is important to remember, what you're ranking needs to be sorted. It needs to first be sorted in a particular order, whether ascending order or descending order. So this is another thing you need to know, how to sort. I think I showed you guys this already. But say for instance, we want to sort this grade column. You do not right click on any part of the heading. You go to the data part of the column and click on any one of the cell, and you right click on it. Any one of the cell in that grade, right click on it, and then you go to sort, and then you pick your order, whether you want largest to smallest or smallest to large. In this case, we want largest to smallest. We want the highest grade on top. So once again, to sort anything, you right click on the column that you want to sort. So say for instance, I want to sort name now. I right click on any cell under that name column, select sort, and pick my desired sorted, whether A to Z or Z to A. If I select A to Z, notice it plays the names in the A to Z order. But as I said, I'm ranking the grade, so the grade has to be sorted. So I'm going to right click on one of the grade and select largest, smallest once again. And notice now my rank has an order because the grade is in that order. Correct order there. Now, remember the 0 is an indication of descending. So if I change it to 1, it's now going to be in ascending order. So notice it's basically swapped the order. Now it's 4, 3, 2, 1. So it all depends on how you want to rank it. Maybe 80 or getting a higher number is a lower score, then ascending is going to be the correct order. So once again, the rank function, it's equal rank.eq. The first argument is what you want to rank, what single value. The second argument is the range, what you're comparing that value to in order for it to be ranked. And then the last argument is what order do you want the information to be ranked in, ascending or descending. Any questions on this here?
No, sir.
All right, moving on. All right, so you guys supposed to already know some. Anybody wants me to go over PMT, the if function? Any one of those? PMT, if, count if, or are you guys clear on it? Count A. All right, let's jump straight to the VLOOKUP. Now, VLOOKUP is an important function for you to understand because it's usually tested in your exam also, and you have to use it as part of the SPA. So let's go straight to it. Now, when using VLOOKUP, you're basically linking information from one cell to another. So VLOOKUP links information from one cell to another. That's what VLOOKUP does in a nutshell. It links information from one cell to another. So like say for instance, this grade of 80 that Jitendra has, yes, I could go and type back 80 here, but what if there was a mistake and Jitendra wasn't supposed to get 80? What if he was supposed to get 55 and I changed it here? So now it was updated in the table, but if I had typed that grade anywhere else, it's not going to update because I manually typed it. So VLOOKUP helps you to link those two cells together so that if I change whatever value here, is going to be reflected in the other location. So how do we do that? Well, the first thing you need to do is to the main table that has the original data, you need to give it a name. So because we need to name that range, so I'm just going to name it table. So that's your first step, naming the range. Now, over here now, on the right hand, I need to get some sort of similar information. So in this case here, the name, the person's name is going to be the similar information between the two tables. So wherever I'm linking the information to, I need some sort of common information. And it usually has to be in the first column, the very first column. Because how VLOOKUP works is that it can only look to the right. It cannot look to the left. So if you understand what I'm saying, is that if it looks for the name in column A, then it can only see grade and rank. But for instance, if I tell it to look at column B, then it would only be able to look to the right and see column C. It will not see column A. So whatever it's looking for has to be the very first column. Otherwise, it won't be able to see anything to the left of that column. So that's why it has to be the first column of the table. So you want something common, and that's usually, once again, what is in the first column of that table. In your case, it's going to be your ID, your applicant ID. Now, you want to link the grades so that whenever the grades change, it's going to be reflected over there. So equal VLOOKUP, open brackets. Now the VLOOKUP has 4 arguments. The first argument is your lookup value. What are you looking for? So that's why I copy this column here. So we're going to select cell F2 because in cell F2 has the name that I'm looking for, Jitendra. So that's the first argument there, your lookup value. What are you looking for? You could have even typed it in. Remember, you're allowed to type in the value, but the more effective method is to use a cell that has the value inside of it, because you can always change the value in the cell. It's much easier to do that than to edit the formula. So F2 to indicate I'm looking for whatever's inside of that cell. Now, the second argument, the table array, where to look for this value. That's why I named the range. So we're going to type back that name, table, comma. Now, so basically, what to look for, cell F2, whatever's in cell F2, where to look for it, in this range called table. Now, when you would have found this value, this name, the third argument is basically the column number that you want to link. So you just look at the range that you would have created. Note it's the range that you would have named, not the entire spreadsheet. We're focusing on the range that you would have created, and you count the columns. So name is going to be column 1, grades is going to be column 2, rank is going to be column 3. So what column do I want to link? I want to link the second column because grades is in the second column. So I type 2 to indicate that is the column that I want to link. And the last argument is whether the table, the range, was sorted or not. True, you're going to type true if the table was sorted, and you're going to type false if it was not sorted. In this case, it was not sorted, or even if you don't know if it was sorted or not, you still type false because that's going to ensure you get the correct answer. And enter. I notice I have the value there. So I just have to autofill, and I have the other values linked over there. So even when I change this 70 to maybe 23, it's reflected over here. This 60, I change it to 50, it's reflected over here also. So once again, the VLOOKUP function, the first argument is what you're looking for. So you're going to use a cell that has the value that's what you're looking for. Remember, it's a value that is in the first column. The second argument is where are you going to look for this value? So that's usually a range that you would have named already. Then the third argument, in that range, what column number do you want to link? First column, the second column, the third column, you put the number, and then true or false to indicate whether it was sorted or not. So you just follow the same pattern, even if it's between different sheets, it's still going to be the same thing. If you type, so we just need the name to go over. Even if it's on another sheet, it's the same process, equal VLOOKUP. It's basically the same function. You select the cell that has the value that you're looking for, comma, you type in the range, where you're going to look for that value, the column number once again, 2, because the rate we didn't change the range, and then whether it was sorted or not, and the value was linked over. So you just have to follow that pattern, and you'll get it to work. Any questions in this one? Any questions on VLOOKUP?
No, sir.
All right, let's move on. All right, so relative and absolute addressing. I told you guys about the two methods already. One method is the $sign method, and the other method is the name range method. All right, let's move. Good, so that's it basically for functions, formatting. All right, so this entire chapter is about formatting. Now, the word formatting, whenever you hear the word formatting, I want you to think of formatting, think of changing the appearance or designing. So whenever you hear that word format in terms of spreadsheets or in terms of IT as we're going forward, think of changing the appearance as to the data, the information, the cell or something. So most of your format options are right on your home tab. So, and you guys would have already been using them, but just to understand the terminology now. So when you would have applied bold to something, made it italic, underline, And then you have the various types of underline. So notice next to underline, you have an arrow, double underline, changing the cell color, changing the font color, making it larger, changing the font. All of that is part of formatting. So when we say apply appropriate formatting, it would usually mean ensure you use the appropriate color, which is going to be a black font, the appropriate cell color, white background, unless you're designing it for some sort of purpose, unless you're maybe creating some sort of title, then you would give it some sort of fancy font, a fancy shaded background, and so on. Remember, whenever you're using colors, you use light colors. We don't use bright colors, too bright colors. The reason for that is because we want to cater for all persons who may have visual problems so that they be able to read the information. So lighter colors will be better in those cases. So those are some of the common formatting. Alignment is another part of your formatting. So your alignment, in order to see the alignment, I have to widen the cell. So you have two types of alignment. You have vertical alignment and you have horizontal alignment. You guys are already accustomed to the horizontal alignment. Remember, horizontal means left to right. So you're already accustomed to right align, center, and left align. So that is the horizontal alignment. Now there's the vertical alignment, which is up and down, like a column. So the vertical alignment is right above the horizontal, whereby you can put it to the top of the cell, to the very center, in terms of it being vertical, and to the bottom of that cell. So now you can use a combination of horizontal and vertical. So notice when I select center for the vertical, it doesn't go completely in center because vertical is only for column. But if I select center for the horizontal, it's going to go completely center inside of the box because I chose center for both horizontal and vertical. So as I make the cell larger, no matter how much larger I go, it's going to stay directly in the center there. So that is your vertical and your horizontal alignment. Next state is indentation. You don't have to worry too much about that. But indentation is what you would have learned in when you're creating a letter, when they would tell you to indent the paragraph. It's basically, indentation means to make a space away from the margin. So above that, we have some orientation. So this is just to change the direction of the text. If you click at the very bottom here, you're going to get the format cell box, and on the right hand, you can get more precise angles if you want. Like for instance, if you want exactly 18 degrees, you can be able to type in exactly 18 degrees for that rotation. What else do we have? We have this option called wrap text. So like say for instance, this cell here, cell A1, I type this sentence here. But if you notice, the sentence was so long, it extended and overflowed to the, it does overlay in the other cells. Now say for instance, you don't want it to overlay on the other cells. You want it to fit inside of this one cell. That's where wrap text can come into play. So if I click on this here, notice it wrapped all the information inside of this one single cell. That's the purpose of wrap text. So if I extend it, move it around, it's going to shift the information around. But once again, the purpose of wrap text is to fit the information into the cell. So you notice there's no overflowing. Let me jump over to another sheet. Now we have merge and center. Any questions so far from anybody? All right, no questions. So we have merge and center. Now, say for instance, you have some titles. You have a table, and you want a title above it. You simply highlight your information, highlight your cells, and you select merge and center. That's going to group a few cells together. So you get a center cell basically to type in a title above your table. You can group any number of cells together using the merge and center option. Now, there's different merge options. There's merge and center, there's merge across, there's merge cells. So the merge and center, it merges the information and center aligns the information. So it's basically merge and center align. Merge across, I think merge across only does horizontal. Yeah, merge across only does horizontal merges. So if you notice, let me do it again. I'm selecting multiple cells, multiple rows, multiple columns. And if I select merge across, it only merged the rows together. The cells to combine to one large row. So it merged across. Now, merge cell is just like merge and center, except it keeps the alignment. So I highlighted all of this cell here. If I select merge cell, it grouped everything together. But if I type something inside, notice it's at the bottom left because that's the default alignment for a cell. So whatever was the alignment that of the cells you would have selected, merge cell keeps that alignment. And then you have unmerge if you want to get back all of the cells that you would have just merged together. All right. Now, so that's for alignment. Now you have your number formatting here. So this is to change the appearance of your values of your data. So let me go back to these grades here. So say for instance, this grade, I want it to appear as a number. I want it to appear as a currency, accounting, a date. So whatever value we have, whatever data we type in, we would usually use this format here to change the appearance of it. So a suitable appearance, whether it's a percentage, whether it's time, whatever the case may be. These are some shortcuts stated here. This is a shortcut to the accounting. This $sign, and the percentage sign is the shortcut for the same percentage that you're seeing here also. This is the comma style. For instance, if I click on it, it's going to add commas to a value. So notice if I made this value here larger, it doesn't have any commas. So by adding the comma style, you'll be able to separate the thousands and so on. And then you have your decimal places here to increase and decrease your decimal places. So instruction in your SBA, you're going to see whether to format something as percentage, whether to format something as currency, and then you have to set the correct decimal place, whether it's 1 decimal place, whether it's 2 decimal place, whatever the case may be. Now, all of these arrows here that you're seeing, they open the same box, the format cells box. This is just more options when it comes to each of the formatting. For instance, if you go to date, you can change the change the appearance of date. Then if you go to alignment tab, there's more alignment you're gonna find here. Um, there's distributed, justify, and so on. So you guys can just go through each one because it's good to practice with all of them. Borders. It's important to know how to add borders. So like for instance, this table here should have some borders. So right in the home tab, the border icon is right here. Now I'm going to click on the drop down arrow and you can see all of the border options, and I'm going to select all borders so that I can see the outline of each cell. And then now you can choose if you want maybe a tick outside border to highlight that table location. But usually just having all border is all that is necessary. But it's up to you if you want to further design it. Good, and that's basically it when it comes to formatting. Well, the basics that you need to gather so far. All right, well, I already showed you guys how to sort. You right click on the data and you sort. Now, there's other ways that you can sort. If you don't want to right click, you can, on the home tab, there's a sort and filter option. There's actually sort options all over the place. So there's a sort option right in the home tab, top right hand corner. You sort smallest to largest, largest to smallest. So that's the simple sort. If you go to the data tab, you can also see the same sort option. So that's going to basically do the same thing. So you have 3 locations as to where you can get sort. The data tab, the home tab, or you can right click and get sorts. Now, this one here, as I said, that is a simple sort. So when you right click, or when you would have selected this sort and filter here and selected whether smallest or larger, that's called a simple sort. We also have what is called a custom sort, whereby you can do far more than that simple sorting, whereby you can sort within a sort, within a grouping. So that might sound confusing, but let me just show you an example. Let me set this back to general. So to do the custom sort, we're going to highlight our table. Actually, I don't think it's not that necessary to highlight the table. And we go to data. We could select sort here. And that's going to bring up this box here. So this is the custom sort box. Or under the home tab, where we have sort and filter, you can see custom sort here also. The same box will come up. Or if you right click on the table and you go to sort, you see custom sort here also. So same 3 locations. Now in this box here, it's more advanced than the simple sort, whereby you can add different levels of sorting. So you can do multiple sorting at the same time, basically. So say, for instance, you want the name. Say, for instance, you want the name Z to E. So I'm going to run that one first. I'm sorting name Z to E. So notice the name is in a Z to A position. Now, notice it sorted the name Z to A. So Amrisa, then Aliyah. So I want you to focus on this 2A that we have here. And notice that when it sorted it, based on the sorting, this 45 came before this 60 here. So, or was I supposed to get 2 same name? All right, let me run it and see what will happen. Yeah. So add level is to basically, if you're seeing this here, it says sort by. So it's going to do this force sorting here, and then by is going to do this second sorting. So in the second sorting, I want the grade to go from, let's put it largest to smallest. Okay, good. It won't make any change because I think I need to let me add Amris's name again. I think I need two similar names. Good. So now with the grade, good. So notice the 60 is now before the 45. So what's basically happening here is that first it would have sorted the name Z to A. So Jitendra, Kasi, Amrisa, that's going from a Z to A pattern. Now, within a grouping of this sort is going to do another sort, which is basically sort grade, largest to smallest. So in this case here, because we have two Amrisa, it sorted the grade within this grouping here, this smaller grouping, this subsection. It sorted the grade for this subsection, largest to smallest. If I switch it around, smallest to largest, grade smallest to largest, okay, notice it's now 45 to 60. So that's how you do a custom sort. Any questions from anybody? So if you want to do for the sorting, you just do add level, and it keeps you keep adding whatever sorting you want to do. All right. All right. So two things here now: your auto filter, which is also called your simple filter. So that's like how we had I showed you guys a simple sort. And then there was a custom sort or advanced sort. For your SBA, there's a simple filter, also called the auto filter. And then we have the advanced filter or the custom filter. So let's look at the simple filter first. So the simple filter is very simple to add, very simple to use. You go to the data tab and you select filter. That's simple. I notice some arrows will appear, and with these arrows you can apply different filter or sorting within that column. So whatever arrow you click on, it's for that particular column. So if I select the arrow and I select A to Z, it's going to sort the name A to Z. If I select the arrow on the grade, largest to smallest, it sorts the grade largest to smallest. If you go to rank, smallest to largest, it will change that smallest to largest. Now remember filter, the word filter is to keep something out. So if you notice at the bottom here, it's like say for instance you don't want to see Alia's name, you can uncheck that box at the bottom here, select OK, and it takes the information out. So it filters out her name. Same for the grade. Maybe you don't want to see who got less than 50. So you deselect all of them, select OK. So you only see who got 50 and above. So that's how we use the simple filter. Now, some of you might get a problem whereby because you have a title at the top here, the arrows might not go to the correct location. So if I try to add it back now, let me see if it happens. Okay, so it still goes to the heading, but sometimes if you highlight the table and you select filter, notice the arrow gone tilted the title, and that's going to not work. So in that case, if that does happen, then you simply highlight from the heading going downward, because the title doesn't need that filter there. So clicking on it is a on and off switch also. So it turns it on and off. So if I click on it again, it's basically off there. And I click on it again. So once you see the arrow, the filter is on. So that's basically how you turn on the auto filter. You either click on a cell and select filter, or you highlight from your heading going downward and select filter. That's going to turn it on. And then you basically follow the instruction to use the filter correctly. So that there is a simple filter. Now what about the advanced filter? Advanced filter, I would have told you guys when creating it to look at the textbook. Here we can see that for the advanced filter, there's 3 parts to it. One, the original data. The original data is the table that we already have. So we already have this original data. Now we need to create what is called a criteria. So this is going to question the data basically. This is going to be our filter. So we need to create this filter. How do we do it? If you notice, this original data, the heading, is similar to the heading that's in the criteria. So what I mean is that we have to recreate it. So how we do that? We simply copy and paste. That's the easiest way. So you copy the heading. You copy the headings, excluding the title. So we don't use the title. Copy the heading and you paste it directly below. Now, under the appropriate column, we're going to type in our filter. We're going to basically type in our question. So in this case, maybe we want to know who got a grade greater than 50. So we just simply need to type in greater than 50 under this grade column here. And that's going to be our criteria. We're finished with creating our criteria. It's that simple. You highlight your heading, you paste it directly below, and under your corresponding column, you type in your question, your filter. So if I wanted to know who got a rank greater than 2, I type that in directly on the rank. So let's try greater than 50 first. Now, so we created the 2 parts that we need so far, the original data and the criteria. Now we need to extract the information into the output area. So now we need to carry out the advanced filter. So we're going to click on a cell inside of our table, any cell. Then we're going to select advanced, right next to filter. The advanced, this is the advanced filter. So we select advanced. This box will appear. In this box, we're going to do 4 things. 1, we're going to switch from in place filter to copy to another location. That's the first thing we're going to do, because we want to extract it to another location. 2, the list range. The list range is basically the table. By clicking on the table and then advance, the table is automatically added. But if you want to ensure the table is added, if you click on it, notice some marching ants is going around the table. That's the indicator it was selected. But if you're not sure, you just delete what is there and you highlight the table, excluding the title once again. Now the criteria range, the third thing you need to do, you need to highlight your criteria range. Notice it's a range. So you got to highlight all of the heading with that row at the bottom that has the question. So all of that consists of the criteria range. Now, the last thing, copy to. Where do you want the information to be extracted to? So you scroll down a bit and you pick a cell in the first column that you want it to appear. So it could be here, but once it's in the first column. So I'm going to pick here and then select OK. And notice my data was extracted here. And that's the end of the advanced filter. So once again, it's two things you need to do to create your advanced filter. One, have your table, which is your original data. So you're supposed to already have that. So that's finished. Two, you create a criteria range. How do we do that? You copy your heading, paste it directly below, and based on the instruction, you put your appropriate question or filter under the corresponding column. Then after that, it's time for you to extract the information. You click on the table, select Advanced, and then you go through the box. You copy to another location, select your table, select your criteria, and pick your location, and then it gets extracted. If for some reason the extract doesn't work, what you're going to need to do, or it doesn't come out correctly, you're going to need to highlight this extracted area here, go to Home, and select Clear and Clear All. You need to clear the entire cells of all the data so that you can use it again for your extract. Otherwise, it won't work. So I can try it now with greater than 2 or even greater than equal to 2. So data, advance, copy to another location, highlight my table, highlight my criteria range, pick a location, OK. I notice I got an extract of who got a rank greater than and equal to 2. So only the 1 was excluded. Any questions on the advanced filter? All right, no questions. All right, how do you create a pivot table now? So a pivot table is very simple to create. A pivot table is created from a table. So a table already exists, like for instance this table here, and we create what is called a pivot table. A pivot table is used to summarize an existing table. So that's why we create a pivot table. You don't want to change this original table that you already have. So we use what's called a pivot table to summarize it, to change the appearance of it, if we do want that. So how do we create a pivot table? We click on the table. That's going to indicate to the system that we're selecting this table. We go to Insert, and right on the Insert on the very left, you can see Pivot Table. So we select Pivot Table, box will appear, and we only need to do two things here. One, the table is supposed to already be selected once again, but if you're not sure if it was selected, you could delete what is here once again and highlight your table. So you need to ensure your table was selected. And then two, we are going to create our pivot table in a new sheet. So we're going to leave this as default. If we wanted in this current sheet, we would have selected existing workbook, which is this, existing worksheet, and then pick a location somewhere here. But we want it in a new sheet, so we're going to select OK. Now, this is what it's going to look like. We now have to create the table. The table was set up. We just have to create it now. Now, on the right hand here, this is called the pivot table fields area. With this area here, you create your pivot table. You basically have to just click and drag. Or, if you check the boxes, it will automatically be added to the appropriate box at the bottom here. But you can play around and basically drag it into different boxes and see the results. So nothing's wrong with that. You put the information into different boxes to see the result. And notice it's the same table, but just that you can change the appearance of it. With this appearance, I could see basically the ranking, and then based on the grade and whatever the case may be here. Now, so whatever field you place in the row obviously is going to appear in the rows. Whatever field you place in the columns will obviously appear in the columns. So that's straightforward. So, but value, this value box here, you're going to mainly use these three boxes: rows, columns, and values. The values box is mainly for numbers, so that you can see those values. Notice it summed up Amarissa's grade, so she had a total of 105 there. Because if you notice on the value, it says sum of grades. If you wanted it to count, we could have changed it up there or something. But we're just focusing on creating that pivot table for now. Yeah, see, let's play around with the values, put it into different position. So notice from this angle how it looks, and so on. So we can drop in rank, name over there, and we see the name and what rank they would have received, and whatever the case may be. So that's basically it. That's how you create a pivot table. You basically put the fields into the what it would have instructed you, into the appropriate column or row or whatever the case may be, into the values box, and ensure your table has an appropriate layout. That's all. Now this row labels will always come up by default, so you just gotta simply edit it and put in an appropriate name. So just remember that. So you just type over it and give it an appropriate name. Every time you change a table, it might change up. So notice the change here to column labels. You just edit it and put an appropriate name. You can even further format the table if you want. Formatting could be applied. So it's still a table whereby you can apply formatting to it. Now, remember this box here is what we use to edit the pivot table. So if you close it off, notice it doesn't appear when you do that. So how do you get it back? Well, when you click on the pivot table, notice at the top here, there's two options that appear: pivot table analyze and design. So two further options for the pivot table. On the analyze, you can notice to the right hand side, there's a field list option. If you click on that, it's going to bring up back that same box for you to edit your pivot table. Any questions so far? How to create a pivot table? All right. Point to note, there's what we call a one-dimensional, and then there's a two-dimensional table. It's just like what you would have learned in maths. One dimension means there's only one axis, either x-axis or a y-axis, either one, only one. But two-dimension is when you have both axes, both x and y axis. So similarly, if you only put an information in the row and the column is empty, you have a one-dimensional pivot table. If you have information in a column and the row is also empty, it's still a one-dimensional pivot table because there's only one axis. So whether it's the row, whether it's the column, once the other one is empty, it's one-dimensional. But if you put something in both, there's a field in the column and a field in the row, then you have two axes, thus you have two-dimensional table. So just remember that there. All right, two more things we need to look at and then we're going to close off. From the pivot table, how do you create a pivot chart now? It's very simple. If you notice, where is it? Right here. Right in pivot table analyze, when you click on the pivot table, there's literally an option there called pivot chart. So when you click on that, and this box will appear, it's for you to select the appropriate charts that you want. The instructions will tell you whether you want a column chart, whether you want a bar graph, whatever the case may be. So in this case, I'm going to select column, and then you can pick whatever style of column you want. I'm going to pick the very first one and select OK, and I have a pivot chart here. So remember, pivot chart is made from a pivot table. How do we know it's a pivot chart? Well, when I click on this chart here, notice the option that appears at the top here. It says pivot chart analyze. If I click on the table, it says pivot table analyze. So that's how we can know that this is a pivot table, this is a pivot chart. Now, whenever you create a chart, that's not the end. You need to add the parts of a chart. A chart, so we're going to select this plus here. A chart must have titles. So we're going to check this box for axis title. So our X and Y axis title. So basically we're going to edit that and put in an appropriate name. And then we're going to edit this here also and put in an appropriate name for that title. And we can click on it and edit it, format it, change it to Times New Roman, increase the font size to 12, set it to bold so it stands out a bit more. Change the font size, bold so it stands out a bit more. So we have our axis title there now. So we go back to plus and we check chart title now. And we type in an appropriate chart title. This is my title. And once again, we can click on it, edit it, make it larger. Our title should be larger. Change the font, make it bold. Good. Now, we can extend the chart so that we make it a bit more bigger. We don't want it too big, but we don't want it too small at the same time. So it shouldn't be taking up too much space. So that there is the right size. Now, when moving a chart, please note, when moving a chart, you need to click on a blank area when moving a chart. So you can't click in the center here. If you notice, you're moving part of the chart when you do that. So you have to be careful with that. So whenever you want to move a chart, you click on a blank area and you click and drag. That's how you move a chart around. Now, when you want to make the chart larger, you also click on this blank area. And that's going to give you these buttons whereby you can click and drag, these handles, so that you can click and drag. This in the very center, this is the chart area, this is the plot area, the graph area. So when you move this here, you're actually moving the plotted information. You can actually make it large if you want also, but that's not necessary. But just be careful you don't accidentally click on it and move it and it makes your chart, it messes up the appearance of the chart basically. The legend now, you can make that larger. Okay, if you notice it's a bit small, so you can click on it and make it larger. So I like now, notice the plot area and the legend is overlapping. So now would be an appropriate time to maybe widen this here and then notice it's not so overlapping anymore. But if you notice like it's still too close, you can now bring that in a bit more. So that's why we have all of those options. So remember, for your chart, presentation is important, because remember, a person has to look at the chart and be able to read information off of it. So that's how you create a pivot chart, basically. You can even add data labels. I think that's part of the instruction too. So this is where you add the parts of a chart, the elements of a chart, the axis title, the chart title, data label, and so on. Now, that there is a pivot chart. How do we create a normal chart now? Well, a normal chart, right on the insert, notice there's pivot table, but on the right hand side in the very center, notice we have all the chart options. So a regular chart, this is part of your SBL. So how to create a regular chart. So first you're going to highlight the data that you want to be a part of the chart. So say for instance you want the name and the grades to be a part of the chart. We go to insert, and here we can pick whatever appropriate chart. So we're going to select recommended. They're going to look at the data and give us a recommended chart for that data we would have just selected. So I'm going to select a pie chart just for creating a chart sake. Select OK, and we have a chart there. Notice there is no access, dated labels, so we can add that in and so on. Well, we won't get access titles. If you want to delete a chart, you simply click on that blank area also and press the delete key. That's going to delete it. Let me create a bar graph or a column. Yeah, let me create a bar. So it's that simple. Just created a bar graph from that data there. So select the plus once again, add in the axis title, your data label. Legend is here, so you can add in all the components, edit your information appropriately, fix the presentation, and that's it there. Now, in your SBA, you can notice when it's telling you to create your chart, I don't think the data is going to be next to each other. Like for instance, say for instance the instruction was to create a chart with only name and rank. How would I do that? Exclude grade. If I try to highlight it, it's not going to work as grade gets highlighted. How do I do that? Well, first you're going to highlight the name column, then you're going to hold control and highlight rank. So remember we covered this already, how to highlight non-adjacent cells. So when you do that there, you would have highlighted the information you want to be a part of the chart, and you simply go through the same process. Go to recommended chart, select your chart, and it has the name and the rank part of it. So it's that simple. And then you add your various components. So it's whatever data you highlight, exactly that will be a part of the chart. So if you only highlight this 3 row here, just these 2 names with the title, with the heading, and we select chart, then only that will be a part of the chart. So exactly what you highlight. All right, so that's how you create a pivot table. That's how you create a pivot chart. That's how you create a normal chart. What else do we need to show you? All right, well, I already showed you charts, creating a chart, modifying a chart, deleting a chart, printing. Good, yeah, that's it. That before you guys go, any questions any questions? Yeah, I want to just show you one thing, but any questions in general? I just want to show you the mark scheme before you go. spreadsheet. So remember, this is already in your classroom. It tells you exactly how you're being graded. So the SBA, the spreadsheet component is 20 marks in total. So for 3 marks, if you use 3 different functions, so in this case it's going to be VLOOKUP, sum, and if. Those are your 3 different functions. You get your 3 marks there. If you have 3 different formulas, you get 3 marks. If you use absolute addressing or range name, you get 2 marks. So if you use the $sign method, if you use the name range method in VLOOKUP and so on, you get your 2 marks there. Formatting. So I think in the instructions it tells you to make something as currency, format as percentage, set the decimal place. Doing that gets you 2 marks. It might tell you about alignment, that's 1 mark. Margin center, that's another mark there. All of that is part of the instructions. Something will tell you to sort in the instruction, that's 1 mark there also. Notice using the simple filter, 1 mark. Evidence of criteria, this is the advanced filter, 1 mark. So notice it says evidence of criteria. So we need to see this here, evidence of criteria. That's us seeing that criteria. So to know you would have created that advanced filter. Pivot table, 1 mark. So I just showed you how to create a pivot table. And charts, I just showed you how to create charts. So creating an appropriate chart, selecting your data, 1 mark each. And notice here, adding a chart title, adding axis title, data label, 1 mark. Using link cell. So either the link cell feature or VLOOKUP can work for this here. You get 1 mark there. And that's basically how you're being graded for your spreadsheet SBA. Good, so we covered everything for spreadsheets. Anything before we close? Any questions, concerns, comments before we close? All right, if no questions, that is the end of today's session. Enjoy the rest of the video.